Hello and welcome to week 6 for Education 435. We're going to take a few minutes and look at our syllabus to see what our expectations are for this week, what your tasks are, and what our learning outcomes are. And then we'll look at our interactive notebook and anything that you will be using in order to meet those learning outcomes and complete those tasks. So here are our learning outcomes for week 6. Again, reflecting on current math instruction in your field experience classrooms, connect what we're talking about in this course to your field experience, grapple with your problem-based task, and then differentiate based on what future students may need support as you scaffold your instruction. And then design and implement your small group intervention, which meets, again, several of your learning outcomes for the course. And then research and reflect upon best practices in math, specifically within grade level relevant standards of your field experience. So your assessments or tasks in order to meet those learning objectives for this week will be your discussion board, your problem-based task, in your interactive notebook, and then any work that you're doing in your tutoring group. So if we go into our week 6, let me turn this on so that you guys can see it as you normally see yours. If we go into our week 6, you're going to see our discussion board. And so for our discussion board, you are going to watch a short video and answer some questions. So you're going to watch a video by Joe Bowler, who is the author of our textbook Mathematical Mindsets. The video is right here. It's about 5 or 6 minutes long, and she is walking a class of upper elementary students through a number talk, and she is trying to get them to understand how we can all take different paths to get toward an answer, and really how different we approach math. And that's kind of the same reason behind your problem-based task in general, is that there is an end in mind, but the path that we take to get to that answer or that result can be very different depending on our math conceptual understanding, who we're working with as partners and teams. So after watching the video, I would like for you to reply to the questions. What strengths do you see from a number talks activity like this? So not necessarily this talk in particular, but in general, having a number talk where you're gathering input on the methods in which students are problem solving. What strengths do you see from activities like that? What challenges do you see? And then what would you add or change about this lesson? So that one is particular to this lesson. What would you change about the way that she's engaging with the students, or how, or what the students are doing, or, at any level, what would you change? And then what would you do next? So you finish the number talk activity, and then what happens with your students in that classroom? What is your next activity to either build on that or move on from that? So what would be something that you would take on? So disregard this learning segment plan. This is a part of another course, so I apologize that that's in here, but that'll be out by the time you get in there. And remember that you have to go into week 1 in order to access your interactive notebook. And then once in your interactive notebook, if you go into your week 6 task, there's just a couple of things, because by this point in time you should be well into your intervention group. And so that's going to be taking the bulk of your time. So here's your problem-based task for week 6. So you're going to find the numbers 1 through 20 using only 4 fours and any operation. So the numbers 1 through 20 that you see in these tables, in these sections of your tables, those are going to be your answers. And then in each operation to find that answer, you must use 4 fours only. So you're not using any other numbers. You can only use 4 fours. So not 5 fours, not 3 fours, For every one, you have to use 4 fours. So problem solve what operations that you'll use in order to get your answer from 1 to 20. And then in each box, you'll type in your equation to show your work. So for example, I have here 4 times 4 divided by 4 times 4 equals 1. Because 4 times 4 is going to be 16, divided by 16 equals 1. So in the ones box, I would type that equation in right here. I would type that in this box right here. I didn't put that in there because I want to see if anyone else comes up with something different, but that is just an example for you to use. Now, I would like for you to try this independently for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but typically when done in a classroom, this is something that groups of students are doing. You always want to give students some independent time to grapple with the content and the problem-based task, but then part of a problem-based task is that we're talking and learning from each other. So I would be absolutely okay if you kind of went to someone that you know and challenged them. Say, can you help me? How can I use 4 fours to get an answer of 16? So if you need help, absolutely get it. I would say probably spend 20, 30 minutes on this in total. Don't feel like you have to find every single one because that will take quite a bit, and especially if you're trying to do this on your own. So just give it a good try and see what you can get. I'd like for you to get at least a handful of them. And then you're working on your field experience. So we continue to learn about assessment systems and planning, implementing and interpreting assessment data during your instructional units. So share what process you're using to track the data of students in your intervention group. So what is working, what is not working, what have you needed to change? So the whole point of an intervention group is that we're monitoring student progress throughout that group. So how are you monitoring that progress? How are you paying attention to gains or plateaus or regressions that students are having? So what is your system for that? And just share a little bit about that in your answer box below. All right, so then if we go back to our syllabus for Chapter 6, we've talked about your discussion board, your problem-based task, your tutoring group, and then this GCLM chapter, again, is just going to be whatever resources you're pulling from that textbook to support your intervention group. So it's not necessarily anything that you have to include in your interactive notebook at this time, but you should be using that textbook as a resource for your intervention group. So that should be it for week 6. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. Thank you.